Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, everybody. Good to see you again today.
Thanks so much for being here. I saw Catch Lisk in here, so let's just throw it in the chat. The
Oh, yes.
exclamation point Lisk. Let's hit enter, and then the link's about to come up here. Let's just make sure it works. Come on, please work. All right, maybe it's not working. All right, it'll work. It should work soon. But we are super excited about this show. Thanks so much for being here. We have two amazing special guest with us. We have Sheryl Mccollum, who is an Emmy award-winning CSI National Law Enforcement Hall of Fame inductee and host of Zone 7 podcast. You guys have to check it out. We'll have the links in there. It's great. We just listened to the episode last night on what we're about to talk about, and me and Shannon were blown away. It was so good. Um, and also, we have Kerri Rawson. You guys know Kerri. She's a beau. As her bio says, writer, survivor, fighter, advocate, New York Times bestseller. Kerri Rawson is here to go over this case with us. We're super excited, so let's get into it. Here we go. Boom. What's up, everyone? What's going on, guys? Thanks so much for being on with us.
Oh,
Thanks
it's
for
an
having
honor to
us.
be here.
Um,
Thank you.
I wanted to explain to you, Mac, what Bo is. So I don't know if you were familiar with the Murdaugh trial. We learned, I'm from New York, so you're from Georgia, so you're probably already familiar with
Sure.
what a bow is. But we learned during that Mark Tinsley Alex Murdaugh said to Mark Tinsley, "Hey, Bo, I thought we were friends," and we figured out, us New Yorkers, I'm hearing it, that a Bo, is a friend. It's like a southerly term for someone who's a friend. So we started J Bo Nation, where it's basically just Jay, me, and just we all get together and we support all our guests. And I know you saw on Twitter, so
Sure.
welcome to J Bo Nation. Kerri is already a member; she was on before, so welcome, and we're so glad to have you here with us.
I am thrilled to be here. And if I could just say before we even get started, I am amazed at just the positivity coming from your group. It has been overwhelmingly cool just to watch how people are reacting and supporting Carrie and supporting the other families and supporting the victims. It's remarkable.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you could see that, and they're gonna be going your way. I just put. Let me go. It's working now, so let me just put in
Yep, it's working
exclamation point
out.
zone, and that is gonna bring up the link for your podcast. So
Awesome.
let's. There it is, guys. Make sure not only to go on the podcast, but as we know from Bob, rate it, give it 5 stars. Make sure get it in the algorithm, folks. Um, Make sure to do that. And now let me
You're
put in.
going to love it. Her most recent episode is amazing. Carrie's on it. And you assembled such a great team on there, Mac. It's amazing. You all will be
Thank
so
you.
astonished by the panel that she has of people that are lending their expertise to solve things and to help and advocate for victims.
And now I'm going to put the old Kerri. So I'm going to put exclamation point Kerri. And what's going to show up here, guys, we got Kerri's Twitter. We got Kerri's Buy Me a Coffee. And we got the link for the best selling book, folks. So I know
Yep.
last time some of you got it. If you didn't, if we got new folks, I know we have new folks. Check out the book. Check out the Buy Me a Coffee. And check out the Twitter, guys. Please go there and check it out. And actually, I wanted to start talking off to Kerri because, first of all, me and Shannon are so grateful to have you in our lives and to consider you a friend. And we've just kind of got into this game, and it's so nice to have your counsel and like to guide us in the right direction. So we really appreciate that, first of all, and it really means the world to us. So thanks for being here, and thanks for that.
Well, I know you guys are solid. Mac knows I have a pretty good gut read on people, so I try to work with everybody like open door. And I know who's good. Usually, sometimes I get it crossed, but I can tell you guys are super solid. And then like you live in Long Island, and so you're dealing with all this like hands on right now. And then you were out there
Yep.
like getting this footage, like we need that because like Mac will tell you like sometimes law enforcement can't do legal things with like drones and stuff, and so when like teams like yours can get in there and get us footage, it actually tells us things that and literally law enforcement's probably like watching you guys.
Oh,
But anyway, like I know you're solid, and so I really appreciate you supporting me, and I try to help you back, and we're all just a big family, right, Mac?
Amen. No question about it.
well, it's amazing, and we appreciate it. And speaking of this case, the one thing when we were texting that I was thinking about, talking to you is one thing you said or we talked about is that when you're involved in something like this with Rex Sherman's families, it never ends. Once it never ends. This is never going to end for them. This never ends for you. And then also, there's a before and there's an after. So if you could kind of explain that to the folks, what I know you talk about this. If you could explain what that's like.
Yeah, I was talking to Mac about that, and it's been something I wrote about too a long time ago. That like before is anything before that moment, I was knocked on that door, or really was told Dad was BTK. So there's the before life of like, I want to call it normal life, and then people will push back at me and be like, okay, but then you're going to tell us all this other stuff that's not normal. And I was like, it was normal to me because I was born into it, right? Like that is my normal. I didn't know any difference. I didn't know like anybody would be different as a father. Like as I got older and I got to college and I was around other men, and I'd now in hindsight, so after is any point after I was notified who he was, in hindsight land, we talk about that a lot. Like I can go back and tell you all the times my dad wasn't normal, or the red flags. But honestly, when people are saying like, well, didn't Rex's family see something, or what did law enforcement miss? Unless you told me that 5 minutes before Rex was arrested on Thursday, I'm not really going to buy it. Especially like, oh, I knew. And I'm like, yeah, you knew. That's why he wasn't like not arrested for 30 years or,
Right.
that's like drives me nuts. But,
Right.
it's just how I define things. And so like when I'm with my family or closer friends or something, I'll say before or after, and they know what I mean. Like I don't even have to say before the arrest or after the arrest. It's just a way of like delineating time, but it's also like before the worst trauma, after, and there's not like there's an after trauma. You're always traumatized. It's just that point of time when everything was like shifted and changed and shattered.
Yeah, and could you, kind of give the folks an idea of what has happened? So today, unfortunately, we're seeing the media is swarmed. The family went back to the house. The media is swarming on it. They're putting pictures, videos. I just can't imagine. And like get some of these comments where people are like, "Well, just go in a hotel or go somewhere else." It's not like these people are billionaires and they're just going to go on the Four Seasons and just ride this out. Like, can you just explain what it is, the after, like the immediate after, how it just was for you and what they must be probably going through?
Yeah, you're dealing with so much, and like we don't know their finances. I mean, it sounds like Rex has a ton of property that is still being hunted down. I mean, I literally have a bunch of people in my DMs like, where do you think his property is? Mac and I've been talking about it. Like, there's so many people. I don't think anybody has an answer where all the property is. I don't even know if law enforcement does. There's some crazy things going on with property with this guy, like all over the country. But like, so you're talking finances, like the reality is you're not just dealing with like trauma and shock of finding out who your dad is. And then you're arguing. I was arguing the FBI. I was trying to alibi him. Then I literally like turned him in on an eighth murder down the street, like within 30 minutes. Like from a practical side, like I wasn't even allowed to talk to my mom or my brother or any family for hours. Law enforcement's like, you can't talk to them. They had to clear us. Then my mom was traumatized, and so we had to get my uncle on, like to basically translate, because you can't put two traumatized people on the phone because they can't communicate anything to each other. This was before we had like conference calls and stuff. And like another reality is like my family, my husband and I, when I was married at the time, we didn't have cable. So the next day there was a press conference in Wichita. We didn't have access to it, so we had friends in Texas hold up their phones to the TV and we listened to it. And then literally, like if you saw at Rex's press conference, like people are clapping. And if you had looked like behind the DA or whoever that was, there's like family victims there, right? Like why are we clapping? There's dead people. Like I understand, like Mac will say from a law enforcement thing, it's like this big victory, but why are we all celebrating and clapping? You know, like that's another reality. But then like finances, like my mom had a mortgage on our little 3-bedroom ranch house. She never wanted to sleep there again. She wouldn't have been able to handle it mentally, trauma wise. She wasn't safe there from like the lookaloos and the media and the creepers. People were tearing our house apart like piece by piece by like they stole our mailbox numbers on the house, you know. And the reality is, Mac will tell you, law enforcement, they have to go on to the next case, and so they'll go in, get what they need, then they remove that crime scene tape and they're done.
Yeah,
So it's
go
a
ahead.
lot to manage.
Right. I can't. That's why I wish people just show some grace, and like some of these people coming in here acting like they know how they would react, or they knew, they would have known. It's like, come on, get out of here with that nonsense. You wouldn't have known, and don't tell me you would have left. Or it drives me insane. But before I go on a tangent on that, uh, Matt, could you give us like your perspective as far as like Harry was saying, like an investigation with the before and the after, and just kind of explain from your perspective what that is like?
Well, the first thing I will just flat tell you is the investigation does not stop at arrest. In reality, it's just getting started. So for me, I want the war room. I want everything up on the wall so that I can see it. So for me, if I could have a room big enough, I would want every single internet search, date and time. I want every phone call from every cell phone, date and time. I want where the phone pinged. And then from there, I'm going to go out. Does he have any journals? Does he have any maps? Is he telling us anything? So once I get all his internet searches and once I get all his communication, then I'm going to overlay that. When did he meet people? So these text messages where he says, I'm going to meet you here and I'll pick you up, I'll bring you here, or wherever they're meeting, hotels, a street corner, his office, wherever it is, then I want that overlay so that I can see he researches, he gets kind of, ready. He starts purchasing extra minutes on these burner phones. He's got his hunting ground set, and now he's made contact. He's fixing to strike. So you can see this pattern. Also, on those walls, again, because I'm visual, if there's any void in time, why is there 6 months where I don't have really anything? And I don't think that's going to be the case here, but I'm just saying, because I think he is not only addicted to that torture porn, I think he is about that all the time. But I want to know when he bought a gun, when he went to South Carolina, when he went to Nevada, when did he go to Connecticut, when did he go to New Jersey? I want all that so that I can see it. Because again, now they're telling us there could be other pockets of victims, and maybe he was this strangler or this killer. You're going to be able to know that. You're going to be able to see that pattern so clearly that you're going to be able to tell the other detectives. I can tell you right now, her cell phone was missing. She was facing east. She was petite. She was a sex worker. She went missing on a Wednesday through Friday. Whatever it is, they're going to know. And it's going to be part of the overall, which I think is going to turn into a task force.
Right. And you were saying, I think before we came on, that you probably wouldn't have been home, right? You would still be, in your war room, just.
I would not be home right now.
You'd not be home. She would not be home.
I would not be home.
And how long do you think it's going to take? Like, I mean,
this is an undertaking like nothing we've seen. And let me tell you why. There was no real time for Bundy. There was no real time for some of these folks because we didn't have the technology we have now. We got flock cameras. We've got cell phone pings. We've got 7 cell phones. We've got him researching specific, and this is critical to me, very specific pornography. So if you see anything that he watches and it's going to translate to this scene, has he looked up anything about beheading? Has he looked up why the burlap? He's researched it. And I'll give you another reason that the war room is so critical. You have one Pan-Asian male that's a victim who was wearing women's clothing. I want to know, because we already have the sheet. We know he researched twinks. We know that to be a petite, effeminate male, right? Did he research that before or after he went missing, before or after he was found. The other thing that's going to be critical, he was wearing women's clothing. Well, I got 2 questions. Whose clothing was it? Think about it. We don't know because all the other victims were nude. Did he make that person wear another victim's clothing? So we want to cross check. What was everybody wearing the last time they were seen? Just saying. You want it on the wall. You want to be able to see it.
Right. And go ahead, Kerri. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say with my dad, we're looking at some cold cases, and I can't really go into too much detail here. I can send Jay and Shannon the links if they're interested after this.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can share with the community, and I'll come back later when I can. But we're finding with my father, like he stole, so he would do breaking and enterings a lot of times and steal clothing of potential victims. Like he would troll and stalk. So he was doing this in person versus say electronically, but that's also the age time. And I think my dad would have adapted and become more like Rex of what we see now if my dad hadn't been caught. But we're seeing where he possibly moved clothing around or even removed them from a victim and then put them on another victim. And then my dad is well known publicly for taking victims' clothing and then wearing them post murders and recreating crime scenes with Polaroids. My dad had this whole insane setup with Polaroids. Like it's the most crazy thing. Like when Mac is talking about these guys, she said in a tweet like they're full-time serial killers. Like they're full-time porn bunnies for like this is gonna sound really inappropriate, but this is a good place to say it. Like there wasn't any sort of porn out there that was enough for my father, so he recreated his own. Literally, he made like his own porn. That's the level of like insanity. Like my dad carried note cards around in his pocket. He cut like pictures of just people out of like the JCPenney catalog, and he had them in his note cards, and he carried them in his compliance pocket up to the day he was arrested. Yeah. And I swear to God, I saw that stack of note cards, but I didn't see the women on it. And like after he was arrested, when I got home, I was in my bedroom trying to clean it out. And unfortunately, my dad had turned my bedroom into like BTK Central. So that's fun. Like explain that one. But like I found a like true crime book on a shelf, and it was set weird. And I was like, wait, somebody had been reading that and put it back. And I picked it up, and this little old census business card fell out, and my dad was using those cards. So here you're talking about Rex being a keeper. My dad worked for the census in 1990, and he was still using the business cards in 2005 for notes. Wow. And I turned it over, and it had an MO, and he was coming up with MO ideas of murders. He had murdered like 30 some years ago. Why is he still trying to figure out how to murder? Like he was coming up with new ideas. Because like Mac will tell you, like they adapt and change like with the time, and then they change like their techniques so they don't get caught.
Right. Well, Bundy's a perfect example. Bundy beheaded some women. He strangled women with pantyhose, and then he picked up a log and blunt force trauma. I mean, he didn't even take the weapon with him. So again, they will change their MO. Bundy. Because we're looking at this scene, because they, sometimes you think, well, this person doesn't fit because it doesn't fit their MO. They may not have an MO. So again, Bundy, yes, there's the co-ed. You can't do anything but connect them. It's very clear. They're petite, long brown, straight hair, college, all that. But then you've got the 12-year-old girl. So when you're talking about this level of perversion, and you're talking about somebody so twisted, and you're talking about somebody that they are connecting this with their sex life, this is the monster you're going to get. And I'll tell you something, when you hear things like Rex called the victim's sister and told the sister what he did, he was naked when he did that. I'm telling you, this is a person, it's a different level than what we've seen.
Right. One thing I want to talk about, and by the way, let me put it in there again, because listening to your pod, you brought this up, Kerri, and I wanted to bring it up, and if you could both comment on it. There it is, guys. Make sure you're checking it, giving it 5 stars, guys. But one thing I want to talk about, Kerri, you talked about when if anyone was going to talk to Rex or anyone's going to talk to someone like this, they're going to stare into your soul, and they're gonna tell if you're bullshitting them. Like, you really got to know your shit. So I was wondering if you could just kind of talk. Both of you could kind of comment on what you're dealing with when you're trying to talk to someone like like Rex or
I'm sorry, it's not funny, but these guys, they're such predators. Like, they're hunters, right? And like, if you think of somebody hunting and like hunting down their prey, like, okay, so like we know Rex duck hunted and then maybe used it as cover, like to dump the bodies. And then I'm sure that influenced his camo choice and his burlap choice. Like, I'm learning all this stuff about duck blinds and duck boats and marsh.
Yep.
I had no idea Long Island, like, you guys have so many people, but it has like a lot of remote marsh. It's beautiful. I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
Like, but when you're talking about these guys, like, they're so good at hiding who they are. They're like, they've got all these layers of hardness to hide, like, that they're nothing inside. They're all broken, messed up inside, and they don't want anybody, like inside they're nothing, and they don't want you to see that, and then they're taking that out on their victims. But like, if you were to spend time with them, they're like they nail you. And if you're going in to like question them, interrogate them on their case, when they're that level of a predator, and if you don't know your stuff, they'll be done with you very quickly. They will call you out and be like, you're not worth my time. You're not worth my ego. You're not a worthy match to my brilliancy of what I've done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you guys see the interview he did, which just blew my mind? The interview he did for like an architect channel on YouTube. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Realty.
Yes.
It just, first of all, blew my mind. First of all, like you're talking about, you could tell this guy was high on his own supply. This man just thought he was just the greatest thing and he just thought he was brilliant and funny. And it didn't help. Didn't help the interviewer was like, thought he was hilarious. I'm like, dude, he's not that funny. Relax, interviewer. I don't know why. But to me, what was crazy is this man, is going on a YouTube channel. He's putting himself, he just not a care in the world. And
he doesn't think he's going to be caught, right, Mac? And then you see the switch. If it's been pulled down, but somebody saved it, you see that switch for that. When he starts talking about, he says, "What is your favorite tool?" And you see what I call the BTK coming out. You see what Rex is, what Gilgo Beach. Like we need a little you see Rex coming out, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought when you were talking about that, Kerri, about how they make you prove that you're worthy to speak to them. Basically, I know your dad did that just in before, when he was vetting his reporter for the Wichita Eagle, right? He was like, if you can't solve this code, you can't, talk about me, basically. So I can't imagine. I mean, I know I would, Mac, maybe you can speak to how you go into a room with this kind of person.
Respectfully. And let me be very clear why. Shannon, you have 3 children. If a teacher tries to tell you about one of them, you already know. You know the truth. So if that teacher is incorrect, if they're misseeing or misunderstanding a behavior, you are the expert. In this scenario, Rex is the leading authority, potentially, on the Long Island serial killer. He knows more than anybody else. He knows when it started. He knows the first pornographic magazine he bought or stole. He knows the first victim. He knows the first time he punked out and couldn't kill somebody. He knows when the rape fantasy started. He knows when he started at home making bindings and ways to capture somebody and keep them, whether it was stealing a handcuff from somebody or braiding different rope. He knows. So if you try to go in there and say, well, you're probably a psychosexual, blah, blah, he already knows what you don't know. So you're already at a disadvantage, and he has studied you. Part of what we know he researched was, what do the police know? Right. It would not shock me at all if he went to bars and had conversations with off-duty cops. Hey, y'all any closer to catching that SOB? And cops, 6 or 7 beers into it, nah, man, they won't even give us enough money to set up trail cams or whatever it is. Right. But the best analogy that I can give you, again, Shannon, is you. You're on a podcast right now, and I bet you at least once you have gone, oh man, back to school clothes. I got to get on that tomorrow. You can't stop yourself. You're listening
Right.
for them. I know they didn't just break something when I'm on camera, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
you're aware when you go to the grocery store. Oh, I better get something for breakfast, and oh, they would love this, and I'm going to go ahead and get some ice cream. Whatever y'all are doing, you are constantly thinking about your children. You can't stop yourself. You're at a red light. You're thinking about them. I got to wash those clothes. I've got to get back in time. One of them doesn't really feel good. I want to check on them. I'm going to stop and get some Gatorade just in case. It is constant, constant. That is Rex. If he's not driving around hunting, he's fantasizing about what he's going to do to somebody. He's watching porn on his phone. He's watching porn on his computer. He is driving off, sitting in his car, masturbating. This is what he does 24 hours a day. There ain't no part-time serial killer.
No, and the crazy thing with my dad is, well, first off, we would be driving somewhere to go fishing, and I'm a motor mouth. Anybody that's spent 5 minutes with me knows that. And he would be like, tell me to be quiet, probably because he was trying to like fantasize about something or enjoy his peace and quiet being BTK in his head. And he's like, okay, that's enough of you over there with your mouth. Or it's just a normal dad, right? It could be either or both. It could just be being dad, like, will you quiet down and stop talking? Yeah, like the thing is, like when Mac and I were talking about these guys being a full-time serial killer, the reality is for my dad, he was like a full-time dad. He held a good job. He was a community leader, Boy Scout leader. He was a full-time everything. I don't even and he didn't have 5-hour energy, right? He didn't have any kind of pills. Like he barely ever even touched alcohol because he didn't ever want to be put in a situation where he was going to run his mouth. Like he barely, he would drink like Coors and that's it, like maybe one. He was always constantly aware of himself, and so he had to have emergency surgery twice. He had to have his gallbladder out. Well, that was emergency, and then he had to have the stomach procedure done. And as soon as he woke up, both times, my mom said later, she's like, he said, did I say anything? And then in hindsight, we're like, fantastic dad. Like, literally, like, he was so aware of who he was when he woke up. He was like, did I say anything while I was under?
Right.
You're like, but like that man, he would
That's
not
awful.
he would not ever like put himself in a situation where his mouth would run without his control. Like I don't know about Rex, but my father is like a control freak down to like he had to sit in a certain chair at the dinner table, and like if he wasn't home, I'd sit there just to spite him. But if he was home, you didn't sit there, right? When he got home at lunch, like we're all home later, like we're all coming home to eat lunch. We all have to go back to our jobs, like say over the summer, like we're teenagers and stuff. We're all basically fighting over the leftovers. Dad got first leftovers, right? Like dad got the bathroom first. Okay, so he's such a control freak. He would come home at noon every day, and then he would sit in the bathroom for 15 minutes with the Wichita Eagle, right? So forget it. If you need to go to the bathroom from like 12 to 12:15, you ain't going to the bathroom till dad's out of there. Now, is he actually going to the bathroom, or is he cutting things out of the Wichita Eagle or marking them, or is he doing what he calls little time bondage, because he has little time bondage and he has big time bondage, and it's in his notes. So he kept track in his notes all of the fantasies he was having and all these bondage things, and none of this had anything to do with murdering. It's like keeping that pot from boiling over is what my dad will say. And so when you're talking about like Rex being an expert on Rex, well, my dad's been really open about most stuff. And there's a whole book of my dad running his mouth with Dr. Ramsland, telling us everything that we would ever want to know about somebody like my dad. And I don't understand, like, did anybody ever think to apply my dad to Long Island serial killer before he was caught? Did anybody go talk to my dad? They should have. Why? I don't
Or
think
just
they
talk
did.
to Dr. Ramsland.
Exactly. I hope they talked to her. Good Lord.
Well, they need to be talking to her today if they hadn't. But I'll tell you something else. If you want to know how dedicated, if Rex is the killer, he is 279 guns. Y'all, that's conservatively $100,000. That's how dedicated he is when he is fixed on something. He had to build a room for it that they're calling a vault. he had to pour enough cement that he could encase it and protect it and then lock it so nobody could get to it but him. And that's what I'm talking about. So if you watch anybody, and this is true for men mostly, but any man will show you what something means to him, his time and his money. That equals what he cares about. So if he's buying 14 cars and the child he's raising doesn't have a winter coat, there you go. If Rex is an architect and there's a 2x4 holding up the front of his house,
That's crazy.
but he's got $100,000 worth of guns, that's what's important to him. So don't miss that. He is straight up telling you, this is what I care about. It's not the wife. It's not the children. It's not my career. It's not the house. It's not the cars. I care about killing.
Oh, God, that's such an important point. And so true. And like, we were there, and you see in that neighborhood, it's like sticks out like a sore thumb. Like it's
Sure.
like nice house, 2x4, crap all over, like, and it's just so true. You said, where are his priorities? What is he thinking about? He's got enough money to get that. He's got enough money for that room, but the house about to fall down. He's going to shove a 2x4 up there and hope and fingers crossed that it's going to work out.
And have a solid iron door in the, like, I can't even imagine the cost of that alone.
Correct. And that's what I'm telling you. And for the single women out there, men will tell you, they won't hide it. If he's got $5,000 worth of golf clubs, don't get mad that he's going to play every weekend. Sugar, I can tell you, he's playing. If he doesn't have one boat, but he's got 5 boats, okay, he's going to be fishing on your anniversary. So either you pick up a fishing pole and get happy about it, or you find your own hobby, because he's gone. He's telling you. And it's all not negative. Don't misunderstand. It's not negative. My grandmama used to say you'd rather have your man on the golf course, than the strip club. Okay. Again, where are they spending their money? Rex ain't hiding his priorities at all.
Such an awesome point.
And I'll tell you another thing.
Go ahead.
The family is traveling. That's when he's killing. He ain't going with them. I mean, everything is such a solid clue. I mean, it's right there, baby.
By the way, everyone who is saying they love you, I don't know if you can see the chat. The people are they love Mac, guys. I already put the podcast in there, but here's the Twitter. Let's do the Bo effect. Let's just show. Let's, get the follow. We were just talking before this. Mac had her account hacked on Twitter. She had like 7,000, and she had to start all over again. So if you are not following her, you're gonna love her. You already do. Make sure you're following that 149 Zone 7. I just put it in there. Check it out in addition to the pod, and give it good reviews.
I appreciate that. And again, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And Kerri and I talk about it all the time. This is a game where it's supposed to be real competitive. Look what you're doing. That's crazy. You don't even know me. This is the first time we've ever done anything. Before I was even on your show, you were pimping. So I appreciate it so much.
He's the one that started pimping for me because I need some support, and I didn't want to do it myself because of trolls. And Jay and Shannon are the ones that started that, and then they helped me, and then they got the ball running. And then the other night I didn't want to do it again, and somebody's like, look, just do it. They're like, you've been like busting your butt all over national TV, and you're not being paid. Like, that's ahead. Like yesterday, somebody posted that I'm worth $5 million. I was like dying, laughing. I was like, have you watched my YouTube? Like, what? Like, oh God. Oh, and then I pulled up this whole article that was talking about my husband. I'm not married anymore. Like, how he's my lover. And I was like, what is this? Like, Chat GPT AI? Like, what is it? It's talking about how I have this like magical relationship. I was like, what is this?
Well,
it's bad.
That's what we're all about here. We want to support good people because we know that there's a lot of shit out there. We see it in the chat. We all know it. Everyone in here who's on the fucking internet sees it. But when we find good folks, we're gonna go out of our way to promote the good folks. That's what we're all about. And then when Kerri vouched for you, Mac, we're like, we're going in.
I vouch for
Well,
Mac.
I appreciate it.
And Mac
Yes,
has been
well,
taking
and-
care of me for like, I
Well,
don't
that's
even
what
know
you
how many
said.
years.
She was like your mama bear or whatever. You know, we you
Yeah,
know.
Sure.
Mama Bear.
And it was
Yeah.
so funny. I will remember forever the day we are sitting. So Jay told you he's not into true crime. He just starts tweeting about Murdoch. He gets all these people following him. He turns to me. I am on the couch and I literally have a near stroke because he's like, "Hey, an author followed me." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Who?" "Kerri Rawson." I'm like, she's his daughter. I'm like, her book is incredible. Are you kidding me? She followed you. I'm like dying. And he's like, okay, well, so
Okay.
you're a good person. And I'm like, yes, she's like the best person. And so, I mean, we will not vouch for just anybody, but
Vouch for Mac. Mac's like the queen of crime, like crime con. She's got like a whole table set up. Like I was still lost. Like I've been like leaning on Mac for years. I don't even know how long. Like before I was public, hardly. Like Mac's been taking care of me. And that's funny. Vouch for Mac.
Well, Mac, folks are asking for people who aren't familiar. Could you give a quick? I know I just did a quick blurb, but if you give them a quick, your background and what you've been doing up to this point, so they could, they know.
Well, I'll hit some highlights if you want me to.
Yes, please.
yes,
I've been in this business since 1983. I started at Grady Rape Crisis Center when I was 18 years old because it was the only place that I could go and actually work real cases because I wasn't 21 yet. I couldn't go to the police academy. And then I went to the Crime Commission from there. And at the Crime Commission, today is actually a pretty significant day for me. I was the person that was in charge of the crisis response team for the Atlanta Olympics, which would not have been a big deal at all, except we had a bomb.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I got a lot of, traction and some, good support from that. And a lot of people don't know, but at the Crime Commission, when I was assigned to the Major Case Division, I had a prosecutor that some of y'all might have heard of, Nancy Grace. So Nancy and I got to work together a ton when we were in our 20s, and we had a good time in Atlanta, y'all. And we fought a little crime, had some fun, so it was really good. And then she went off and became Nancy Grace, and that was just tremendous for all of us to watch her. And from there, I went to the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. I did some other things, and now I'm with another Metro Atlanta Police Department, and I am still an active crime scene investigator. So I still do work for a living.
Awesome.
And she's like super responsive in DMs, and I'm like, wait, did she retire or is she like at a crime scene right now? So I'm like pinging her like with news or like, hey Mac, I'm like, it's like elbowing somebody in the community. Like I'm pinging her and like Joe Jackalone and like these like all of these really like insane, amazing people. I'm like, hey, like what do you think of like this? And like the funny thing is like I don't have like the academics or the like letters around my name or like the badges or anything. I just run with all these people. I try.
Well, let me just be really
clear. You have
clear.
the heart, though, Kerri. You have the
Oh my
heart.
God.
Writing notes down.
But Kerri, let me be very clear with everybody. I mean, I may have a master's degree. It is worthless compared to what you can give the intel to me and what you can give to other victims. Nobody can do what you can do. You're in a lane by yourself. And the gift is, again, I don't know why horrible things have to happen, but I know what you're doing with what happened to you. And you're able to help people that nobody else could reach and nobody else could help. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So don't say just because I don't have them either, but your bravery and your heart and you're going out to help to be an advocate.
Amen.
It doesn't matter if you have a doctorate. Who gives a shit? You're out there helping people, and that means more than anything. Truly, seriously, Kerri.
Love, loyalty, concern. You can't teach that.
And if you're in the situation like what you've been through, Kerri, somebody wants to talk to you more than they want to talk to anybody with letters behind their name because they know that you are one of the only people that know how they feel.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
do really well when I get matched up with somebody like Mac or like a forensic psychologist or like a,
Or wait,
criminologist.
I was gonna say, or Lauren, I have another thing I want to throw in here. I want to put the exclamation point crowd, because we got crowd solved, you and Lauren, right?
Yes.
Didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you off, but I wanted to give you, I didn't want to forget to give you a chance to, because I know
Yeah.
you're looking for folks to help you out. If you could tell them what you're doing with Lauren.
Yeah, so and it's with Gabby Morgan too, True Crime Replay. That we're building, like they're building a nonprofit. Crowd Solved is going to be a part of like the True Crime Replay umbrella. So True Crime Replay is like has victim resources and it's still building advocate resources. It's going to be like education and training for like people like us. And then Gabby has a Missing Alliance, so they do missing persons groups, and then she works with a lot of victim families of really like really rough cases, like Serenity McKinney's case. Like there's just really rough cases that she works with the families. So that's True Crime Replay, and there you can find them on Twitter. And then CrowdSolve, Lauren Malloy is in Rhode Island, and if she hasn't got on with you guys yet, she needs to get on with you and cover her case.
We love Lauren.
Her mom. There's a cold case with her mom that's actively being investigated right now. It's definitely looking like a homicide. We're just waiting on things to get back. So she's been advocating for her mom, and then she got like a whole cold case unit open in Rhode Island. Like she's like Lauren changes like whole state legislation. That's who Lauren is. And so she's got this thing called Unsolved Rhode Island. Well, she's ready to make it like nationwide. And so we're building CrowdSolved, where we're going to take all the lovely like true crime nutters, and we're going to put you guys to work and have you be in like forums and groups and help us solve active and cold cases. And we're going to work on like digital evidence, like with like a partner that's partnering up with us, because what we're running into is like stuff isn't admissible in court. Like Sheryl can talk about it. Like if you need the original one, so if somebody has the original like digital evidence of something that was on Facebook or text, if that can be submitted and then held securely, then it can be more admissible than say like my 100th copy of Facebook tea. So we're working on like building that so we can like right now like the Facebook groups for like missing and the active and cold cases are kind of a mess. And we're trying to figure out how to make this more effective. And so we're not duplicating things, but we're also trying to protect families. And so if we can get sleuths and ethical content creators over here and then match them up with cases and families, but be kind of like a gap between the two, so that the like honestly like you don't really want to expose a family to say an autopsy or something, right? And so if you can protect the family, protect them, and then I'm going to come in as sort of a media and platform partner that I can like, I already do it when I was on before. We talked about how I'll take Facebook tea and I'll run it over to Fox News and it'll be news in like an hour. So I already do it with several outlets. Like I'm like a little communication hub over there in my DMs. Like let's just do that and get stuff, because Mac will tell you like she maybe needs eyes on a case, or she maybe needs something public. She maybe has some tea, but like it's not, you can't, as law enforcement, you can't necessarily just poke at the media. And so you just pass that somewhere and then it gets where you need to go.
Absolutely.
Well, I see a lot of people saying they want to help, so I'm putting in the Twitter, and it tells you exactly what to do, guys. Go to that link and send some DMs, and if you want to help, they're looking for help, guys.
Send the DM to CrowdSolved. It's open. The DMs are open, and Lauren and Gabby are managing that, and they'll grab you and help you. And anybody that contacted me, I just need to route you over to Lauren and CrowdSolved.
Yeah, that's the link up. So, guys, CrowdSolve. Don't send it to Kerri. You heard her. Stop being idiots and send it to CrowdSolve. Don't be dumb. Send it to CrowdSolve, and they'll figure it out. Kerri is a very busy woman, and you guys need to relax, all right?
But Mac is like in our corner, like she's like our grizzly bear mom advocate support.
Sure.
Like, and 100%. She helps Lauren with all of that, and she helps me. And Mac, see, somebody like Lauren or me, we need like a secure, safe place to take some things we can't talk about. And like Mac is one of my people, because Mac is right. Like this but I hate to use the word business for true crime, but like this can be a very competitive place, but I hate competition. And so like I need a safe place I can take something and know it's not going to end up somewhere that it's not supposed to be.
Karen, I don't think Carrie has Venmo, but she does have Buy Me a Coffee.
I
So I'm gonna.
do.
You do have
I have
Venmo?
Venmo.
What's your Venmo?
Yeah, it's just on Twitter. I don't know. Just if you go to the little envelope on Twitter.
All right, so I just put it in there. It has her Twitter, it has her Buy Me a Coffee, it has the book. All those help, but probably Venmo's the best. So click on the little dollar sign on Twitter. So I think that's probably the best route to go with.
Can I ask Matt, can I ask you about back to Long Island? Like, do you think he did the other ones that we still just don't even know anything about, really?
Well, if I was in that war room, that's what I would be doing. I would have every wall dedicated to a different dumping ground, and then I would have all the key signatures and MOs and everything that I could connect. And again, let me just start with the 7 phones. This man could have had 1 cell phone, 3, 4. He selected 7. What I am most interested in is, do those 7 phones correspond with a state? So is 1 South Carolina, 1 New York, 1 New Jersey, 1 Rhode Island, 1 Massachusetts, 1 Nevada. So when that phone rings, he already knows where the sex worker's calling from. He doesn't have to waste time saying, hey, where are you at? He knows.
Wow.
That's who he's contacted. Are those 7 phones possibly trophies? How do we not know those aren't 7 victims where he just swapped out the SIM cards? Because again, people keep talking about burner phones, but then they said he was seen purchasing minutes.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, to me, that if you can buy minutes, that means that phone has internet capability. That's not a real burner phone, like a flip phone. He had 7. He selected that just like he did the victims, just like he did the dumping ground, just like he did the date and time that all of this happened. He chose the manner and the calls. He did that. So I would start with things like that. Every single thing matters to me. So like when people are saying, oh, those dolls in the house, that don't mean nothing. You don't know it don't mean nothing. I don't know it don't mean nothing. If it creeps everybody out that I know, I'm going to stay on it. And when I saw that doll encased in glass, it creeped me out. They had gloves on. They took it. So if I were that crime scene investigator, I would have taken it too. Are there trophies on that doll? Is there hair on that doll? Is there jewelry on that doll? Or was it used just as a creep factor? Like the art where the woman's beat up. Again, torture is what he is into. So everything matters to me until I can prove it don't matter. And when I get to a crime scene, if I don't know how it relates to it, I'm going to freaking take it. And then I get in a big room, and this is, I'm sure, what they're doing. I'm sure they've got a warehouse room, and all that stuff is laid out, and they are painstakingly going through every single thing. And then they're going to start to process. And then they're going to start to get some stuff back. And then they're going to say, wait a minute, we have this and this and this. And now we know how it correlates, because I believe this man kept journals. He's an architect. I think he drew some things very mechanical. If you looked at where they dug, yes, they used ground penetrating radar and canines. I don't know that he didn't have a map somewhere.
Well, it's interesting because he was very proud in his interview how he had all these old books about code. He was very bragging about he had. So that just kind of goes to what your point, where he has all these systems and codes that he's very proud of. And he was proud of like the fact that probably no one else has this book on this code from whatever year. But he made a very, he made a big point to be like, oh, I have this book. And then of course the guy was like, oh, that's hilarious. It wasn't funny, but babe,
Hey,
you wanted to say something?
I'm gonna throw this back to Kerri. Would we have ever? I mean, honestly, if he just told us his moniker is BTK, would you have ever figured out that? Again, a lot of this is a mind game, but Kerri's dad, it was all about codes. It's a secret. Only he knows. This is something he develops. And I think this man has done the same thing.
Oh, good God. Well, there's several things here. So first, like, oh God, when I saw that doll, I'm over there peeing in Mac, and I'm like, do you see this? And I'm like several thoughts here, like what Mac was saying, but also I was like, do you think there could be human remains in that doll? Like, is it human remains dressed up because of the way it was encased in glass? And then I was like, wait, is he recreating a crime scene? Is this one of his blonde victims? Okay, and then I'm like, wait, what were they wearing? But now you're saying they're naked. But then you're like, wait, is that clothes? Did he store those clothes somewhere? Where did they find those clothes in storage? Now we're hearing it's an Icelandic doll. Okay, did his wife bring that back? So it's really great that they were handling it with that much care. And then the portrait or photo that's been blown up, I think it might be an autopsy photo. So the question is then, an ME should be able to maybe match that to one of the victims. Is that an unknown victim? Is it a recreation? Is Rex a painter? My dad was a big drawer. He mainly did line drawings. He has like a couple hundred bondage drawings. Now the question is, like, is he recreating a crime scene in each of those? Or is he like my dad would read about something in Florida and then he would recreate it and draw it. Okay, now we know that wasn't his, but like which ones are a recreation of something? Like my dad also did like landscape drawings. My dad was going to build a second addition to our house. And I'm sure he had somewhere in his blueprint drawings, like probably some secret vault thing for like a BTK room, I'm sure. When you're talking codes, my dad is notorious for BTK binders, and he kept little spiral notebooks like this big, and he had one like listed of all the movies we would want to watch. And my dad's such a dork, he would take that to the like to Blockbuster, and he would be flipping through it like, okay, what are we going to watch now? And I'm like, Dad, there's all these movies, and he's like flipping through his notebook. And so like I never even questioned Dad having notebooks, right? Because he was always carrying these little spiral notebooks. Well, if you get in there, like I said, he's keeping a timeline of everything he's done, all of his fantasies, all of his bondage. And then he has codes. And so he has like German fractal codes. He has 5x5s. He has codes he can't even crack. And then when they arrested him, they took him one and they're like, we can't crack this. And he wasn't able to. And we're like, we don't even think that's anything, Dad. And then like, he doesn't remember. And so like, these guys are so pervasive. They don't always even remember like something. Like if you look at like the really big bad ones, unfortunately they won't even remember all their murders. Like that's the reality, especially when you're talking about like violating sex workers. Like they don't always even know their names. And like my dad didn't even always know his victims' names until after they were in the newspaper.
And Mac, they're not giving us everything in that bail thing. Like that's not every Google search he ever did. So a lot of people are saying, well, he couldn't have murdered people in South Carolina, or he couldn't have murdered these ladies in New Jersey because he didn't Google them. Well, they didn't give us everything, right? They're holding that shit back.
If you were to pull your own Google search just at Christmas time, where you're looking for different gifts for people, how many different places would you have gone? You're talking about a very small list of a man that has an addiction. This is not something he looked at occasionally. This is something he did every day. He was either looking for new content, watching something that was one of his favorites. To Kerri's point, there's been some people that have said that he had some of the victims' phone where he was taking selfies. I don't know that he wasn't making his own videos as well. Again, you think how many times you think about work. Think how many times you think about your children. Think how many times you think about church or whatever it is that you love and are consumed by for whatever reason. That is how often he's thinking about this. If he's not researching and he's not getting off with porn and he's not driving around looking for a new dumping site and a new hunting ground, he's buying crap. He's ordering handcuffs. He's ordering different type of rope. He's ordering burlap. I'm telling you, this is what he does all the time. It's not a part-time gig. I mean, Shannon, you know what I'm talking about with 3 children. There's no way that can't consume you. And that's not a negative. But I'm just telling you, every time you were to think about your children, he's thinking about, God, I'd really like to strangle a hooker today. That's it.
Well, I
That's
mean,
it.
go ahead. Sorry, Kerri, you're gonna say something.
No.
No, like when you're talking about rope with these guys, I don't know. Like, well, one with what we're seeing in the Bell documents, they're only telling us what they're indicting for the three. They're even leaving off Maureen, but they did give us a little bit of note, and there's a lot of information right in that piece about Maureen. But they're only going to show their hand on those, and legally they can't. They're not. That other stuff is active. They're not even able to fully tie him to Maureen yet. They have some old DNA I heard that needs like extra testing or decayed. They don't have the electronics necessarily, so like they're not, Maureen obviously is his. They're just not even going there yet. So to go to the next ones is another step. And then like Max says, they've got to rent out all this other stuff. And honestly, law enforcement, I like, if you're around them and it's active, there's this wall and you're either on this side of the wall and you're good to go, but only for like that one case or that piece of information. And if you're on the other side of the wall, you forget it. You ain't getting anything out of these guys.
That's
You
right.
know, I wanted to ask you one thing because we talked about the Bleefnick case with the Google searches, and to me, with the Bleefnick case, he was an idiot. Like he was just a dumb idiot, and like he got caught. But with Rex, I feel like he's just arrogant and just thought like that he would just. It's not that he was stupid about it. I just thought he just didn't. He was just above it. Like he was never gonna get. He did it for so long.
Never gonna get caught.
He was gonna never get caught, right? But with the Google, like, what do these idiots do? Like, how do they not? It blows my mind. I guess
it's
that's
the ego. It's
ego.
the narcissist, right, Mac? The psychopath, narcissist, pathological liar. Like my dad's a sexual statistic, psychopath, and narcissistic, pathological liar. Like honestly, too, there's no one all the way home. They're not insane. They would never get the insanity defense, but there's like a disconnect there. And so when there's a disconnect, like we have a moral line, we all do, that we won't cross normal people. Even my dad has one, sort of, but there's like this not all the way home where when he got caught, he's sitting there being interrogated and he is pissed at Kenny Landerwehr, who Shannon was saying, like, they picked out Kenny because they picked out somebody that was strong on camera and could hold my dad's attention and would be compelling. And Kenny had been chasing my dad forever. And so Kenny and Dad became synced up for like 10 months in communications through the media. And there was this whole strategy, right? So then they arrest Dad and they put Dad in the car with Kenny. And Kenny goes, "How are you doing, Mr. Rader?" And he was like, "I was fine." And he goes, "Were you going to golf this weekend?" And my dad's like, "No, I gardened." And so Kenny knew as soon as he was talking, he had him. But then, like, when they were sitting there at the table being interrogated, like, my dad wasn't giving up his goods, and so Kenny pushes this like 3x5 computer disk that we used to store stuff on. He pushes it across the table because that's how they caught my dad. Because my dad had put it in like the library, the church office, somewhere else, and then it had stored the data of where my dad had been, and all they had to do was run down the church and they found my dad. So literally my dad helped catch himself. Literally my dad came back out in public a year before. So it's like these narcissistic games and they just don't think they're going to get caught.
Well, I gotta say, guys, it's been we knew this was going to be informed. I'm just going to have to chat, and people are blown away how good you guys. I knew this was going to be good, but you guys have blown away my expectations. Thank you so much for giving all of this insight is unbelievable, and like you blew us away, and everyone in the chat is saying like they're just blown away. So we can't seriously thank you guys enough for coming on here. And guys, let me I'm gonna put the links in there. Please show them the love. We gotta go to the podcast. Oh, I gotta get your Twitter on here too, and hopefully you guys will come on with us again because this was awesome. And we really really appreciate it. Babe, did you have anything you wanted to?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. This has been so awesome. It's like a dream come true to be able to sit with you both and just have you, to talk to people. It's just amazing.
Well, it's an honor for me. And again, I can't thank y'all enough just for the support and the positivity. We need it. We need positivity all the time. And I will leave you with this. People ask me all the time, Mac, how are you not just burnt out after 44 years? And I always say the same thing. How in the world could I possibly burn out? I'm surrounded by heroes every day. Y'all, Kerri, the officers that I work with. I mean, how do you burn out when you've got the best people in the world around you? And that's my zone 7, straight up.
Awesome. Kerri, did you want to, anything you wanted to throw out there?
I just will echo what she's saying about positivity and working together. There's a way to work together, like quietly behind the scenes, wall off things from the public, and work those rabbit holes quietly, because there's a lot of things the public doesn't need to be in, or we're not ready to put front facing. I would just say work together, be mindful of what you're putting publicly, and then go what's behind the scenes, and try to. I always tell people in my timeline, make yourself useful. Go do something useful. Stop arguing with everybody. And that's not your bows. I don't see any of that coming out of your community at all. It's just some of the other people. But you guys are really positive, and this positive force that's sort of snowballing in the community and making everything else more positive. And so that's really awesome. I really appreciate you guys and the bows.
Awesome. And what was I going to say? We talked about this last time. A retweet on a missing case case is the world. You don't have to give money. You don't a retweet, a share on Facebook. All those little things, guys. It helps. It really does. Getting this stuff into the algorithm really helps. And
Amen.
This community that we're building is doing that. Us also, by the way, guys, me and Shannon are about to go on Publicly Buzzed. I don't know if you guys saw. We set this thing up on YouTube where we can send everyone in our chat, because tonight at 10 we're going to be on Publicly Buzzed, and when we end the stream, everyone in the chat goes into their stream, so they're also part of this community that we're building. We're also super positive. So guys, please, if you aren't subscribed to them, but I want to tell you guys a little story about my send off. I've been looking for a send off of what I should say at the end of each show, and I found it. I don't want to tell, because I don't want you guys to be weirded out. I don't want you guys to be weirded out when I'm about to say this. So we go to where
I'm glad you're going to explain it.
I'm going to explain it, because I'm going to say this, and you guys will be like, "What the hell is he talking about?" All right, so we're one of the first people to. We're at the scene. Everyone leaves, and the police say the media has 1 hour to go. Go in front of the house because it's been blocked off. So we get on there, even though we're not really media. We kind of snuck in there, but. And while we're in there, the whole time we streamed for about 4 hours, and there was this guy named Ted. He's hyping us. He's like, "You guys are awesome," and he's like, my family lives a block away, and then he's like, it gets to the end, and he's like, "Meet me around the corner. I'm 108, and you guys can come in the background in our backyard and get a shot of the backyard." So everyone's like, "Go to Ted, meet him." So I go. I'm live streaming. I got my camera. I walk around the block. He's like, I'm 108. So I go to, it's 104, 106, 110. Fucking Ted was a troll, and he got me. He freaking got me. I mean, it wasn't a big deal because I was already leaving anyway. So that day, what I said when I ended the stream, I said, "Deuces, YOLO, fuck you, Ted." So I'm going to end the stream. We're going to go in the portal. We're going to go in the portal, everyone, and go into Publicly Buzzed, because Shannon and I are going to be on there at 10. I'm going to put up the portal, and deuces, YOLO, and fuck you, Ted.